Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining me as we gather around to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good things. And joining me here today to talk about all these good things is the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, I can't believe, doesn't 2020 feel like we're moving into the future more than ever before?
Oh, it really does. It's so weird that today is the final day of the year. And listen, guys, have a great time tonight, regardless of what it is you're going to do. But please, for the love of Baby Yoda, do not be a fucking asshole and drink and drive. Because it's not just not being smart. It's not just, no, you're a fucking asshole if you drink and drive. So please, you got plenty of hours between now and midnight. Start making your plans, make your arrangements, plan out your Uber trips, figure out who's your designated driver, because I want to make sure y'all are still around to talk some movies again tomorrow. So please have a great time tonight, but also be very, very safe. All right, guys, listen, we do have a bunch of things to talk about here on this final show of 2019. It is weird to think of it in those terms, but it is indeed the final show of 2019.
So weird.
So odd to think about it in those terms. Tomorrow will be 2020. But listen, we do have a number of things to talk about. So let's talk about some of these main topics. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with the main topics by any time going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, fill out the form that you see with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With all that down and out of the way, let's move on to our first main topic today. And our first main topic today gets sent in over to us from Michael Held, who writes, I know we talk about what superhero films are coming up in 2020, but I think that the horror genre next year will be as big a surprise with such movies as Halloween Kills, A Quiet Place 2, Saw 9, and The Conjuring 3. So my question for you, John, is how big do you think that the 2020 slate for horror movies will be? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in. And you're absolutely right, Michael. When we look forward to 2020, a lot of the times the questions that we go to when we're facing 2020 are the biggest comic book movies, what are going to be the big Oscar contenders, what are going to be the biggest blockbusters, and that's understandable because those are the biggest films of the year generally, so it's understandable that that's where we normally go to when we talk about these things. But Rob, there's also a lot of horror films coming out in 2020 that I think is going to be very exciting for people to look at. I mean, there's a couple of high profile ones, a couple of ones that might fly under the radar. And the reality is, Rob, in the last couple of years, we've seen a pretty decent little resurgence in horror. Not as much in 2019 as I think in 2018 and 2017, but still a couple of really good winners. And I wanted to ask you, Rob, when you look into 2020, what are the films that you are most looking forward to? What are the horror films that you think are going to catch some people by surprise? And which ones do you think are going to be the ones that people are going to look forward to the most? And by the way, I just heard my doorbell ring. I'm expecting a big Amazon delivery. So Rob, I leave it to you to tell everybody about the horror movies coming up.
Okay. Well, first of all, there are a lot of sequels coming up, which is fine. I'm all about sequels. But what I'm really excited about is 2020 is full of chock-a-block full of what looks to be brand new original horror films, beginning with something that I have to say doesn't necessarily look great, but I'm going to go see it. Underwater with K-Stew. I mean, not since the likes of Leviathan and Deep Star 6 have we been treated to something like Underwater. There's another movie coming out with Mackenzie Davis called The Turning, which is based another reinterpretation of the great story, the Henry James novella, The Turning of the Screw. There's Gretel and Hansel that's coming out. There's Fantasy Island, which looks to have a distinctly horror bent. There's Lee Whannell's The Invisible Man. I mean, I loved Upgrade. Lee Whannell's Invisible Man, obviously one of the original architects of the Saw franchise, coming through with a really, really interesting take on the old Invisible Man Universal horror film. This one starring Elizabeth Moss. Antlers, produced by Guillermo del Toro, looks amazing.
Yes, it does.
There's Antebellum, which is a deep, I guess, a horror film set in the Deep South. There is Malignant, which I can't. Anything called Malignant says to me it has something to do with diseases, which are right up my alley. That's, of course, James Wan's new film. There's let's see, Army of the Dead is coming out. That's from Zack Snyder. A bank heist in the middle of the zombie outbreak in Las Vegas. Count me in. So, and that's in addition to all of the sequels our viewer mentioned. I mean, there's so many sequels coming out. There's a new Wrong Turn movie coming out.
Yeah.
Of course, Escape Room 2 is coming out for my boy, Adam Robitel. We've got, there's an Untitled Purge sequel coming down the pike. There's the Candyman remake coming from Jordan Peele. There's an Untitled Saw project, of course. Then there's John, the New Mutants. Has a horror bent to it.
That's right. They're calling it the first, like, kind of, not, it's really not the first, but in the new age of comic book movies, the first, like, comic book horror movie. Yep.
You know, and then, of course, we've got Brahms, The Boy 2. If you love The Boy, Brahms is coming at you. I mean, I want to see a piano playing doll. I mean, is that why it's called Brahms? I don't know. Does he play concertos before he kills you? And I've heard that the new Grudge is quite good.
Yeah, which is coming up very quickly. Actually, the new Grudge one is coming up very quickly. I've been looking forward to this upcoming year for horror, and I'll tell you the ones you mentioned, a whole ton of good ones, and I'll just kind of mention the ones that stand out to me the most. One is obviously Quiet Place 2. Quiet Place 2.
You love it. You're like the biggest Quiet Place fan in the world.
Yeah, I thought that was the best film of the year when it came out. I love Quiet Place. I cannot wait to see what they do with another one, and they follow up on that. So that one looks great too. Also, the one that kind of caught me by surprise, not the most, but did catch me by surprise, was Fantasy Island.
Right, that looks really good. When
they first mentioned Fantasy Island, I'll tell you what, I thought it was going to be, and you've heard that Michael Pena is going to be in it, playing the iconic role of Ricardo Montalban of Mr. Rourke. So you think it's going to be like a comedy band. It's going to feel like, the old show and all that kind of stuff. And then you watch the trailer and you're like, oh my God, this looks so freaking good. Like, yep. I couldn't believe it. So that looked amazing to me. The other one I'm really looking forward to, and again, it was a pleasant surprise because of the trailer, is The Invisible Man, the one with Elizabeth Moss. I mean, I thought, okay, that's kind of interesting that Universal is still trying to do. Isn't that cute that Universal is still trying to do some of their classic monster movies after their amazing flops there? But then the trailer came, Rob. And we were all impressed by it. Like, we were all completely impressed by it. I really enjoyed it. Look, we're looking at Conjuring 3, New Halloween, a lot of the ones that are standing on the radar, but Army of the Dead, the new Zack Snyder film, which he has been busy working on, apparently unable to finish the Snyder cut. I'm sorry, I had to go there a little bit. But seriously, him getting into a genre that he's clearly had big success with before. The concept sounds amazing. I'm a big fan of any movie that involves Las Vegas. So, I mean, I'm down for this. I think this sounds really, really good. Rob, if you had to pick one, though, like say one, that you could only watch one horror movie of the upcoming slate, which one would it be?
I've got to go with Malignant. James Wan, I think he co-wrote it with his new wife. But James Wan was responsible for Saw, Insidious, and the Conjuring franchises, which brought us Annabelle and The Nun. I mean, the guy is really the modern godfather of the horror film franchise, and he's returning to something original. And I'm hoping, I see James Wan. He's the Rembrandt of the jump scare, and I see him as somebody. Look, I couldn't believe how much goofy fun I had watching Aquaman. I don't think anybody would have gone as gonzo fantasy Ray Harryhausen, touch your 8-year-old child in a superhero movie as much as James Wan did with Aquaman. So I'm really looking forward. I want to see some like Cronenberg-esque body horror. I don't know what it's about. It's just called Malignant, which conjures up visions of people with cancerous boils all over their bodies. I don't know what's going on there. All I know is that is my number one horror title of the year, and I really want it to be a gut punch. I mean, I thought Insidious, he went back to his low budget roots, and Insidious was terrifying. I mean, I'm like, the guy kind of went back after making movies like Death Sentence with Kevin Bacon. Was that what it was? And it wasn't quite working out, so he just went back and he goes, you know what? I'm gonna do it like M. Night Shyamalan did before M. Night Shyamalan did it. He's gonna go back and make a low budget, in your face horror movie, and the result was Insidious, which I loved. So I'm hoping that Malignant is gonna be the movie of the year for me.
Yeah, obviously mine is gonna be Quiet Place. Mine's obviously gonna be Quiet Place, but surprisingly and shockingly, running up in number 2 is gonna be that Invisible Man movie, and it's all because of the trailer. All because of the trailer that it got me that excited. So we'll see how that goes. Question is, guys, as you look forward to the year of 2020 and all the things that the horror genre has coming out to us, what are the upcoming films that stand out to you that really got you excited about seeing them? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets sent in to us by Isaiah Washington, who writes, Happy New Year's Eve, John. Well, thank you so much, Isaiah. We're almost done with this decade, and in award season, one of the most shocking moments for me due to award season this decade has to be when Ben Affleck not getting in the Best Director at the 85th Academy Awards. That's still one of the biggest stunners to me. I have to ask, is there any director who is gaining a lot of buzz for a Best Director, possibly becoming absent for a nomination? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, first of all, let me reiterate something that you just said. It is still continues to me to be, I mean, look, at the Academy Awards, the nature of the Academy Awards is that there are going to be things that we pick to win and they do, and things that we pick we don't think will win that do, and all that kind of stuff. That's the Academy Awards. That's great. And I don't always expect Academy Awards to do things I think, but the biggest shock to me maybe ever in the Academy Awards was Ben Affleck not getting a Best Director nomination for Argo. Not just because I thought he did a great job, but because of the fact that the Directors Guild, every single major awards body, Rob, gave Ben Affleck Best Director of the Year that year. Not nominations, they gave him the award that year. Every single major awards body gave Ben Affleck the award for Best Director, and including the Directors Guild of America. And then come the Academy Awards, of which the Directors Branch is made up of members of the Directors Guild of America, and he didn't even get a nomination, which is still the craziest one. And I'll tell you what, this year is going to be, there are going to be people who are unhappy this year, Rob. There are just going to be people who are unhappy because
isn't that every year?
Of course. But that's the thing. You know, we'll often hear people say so-and-so deserved a nomination or so-and-so deserved a nomination. Yes. But in a year, in an award ceremony where there are 5 nominee spots and 12 people who deserve a nomination, that just means there are automatically and unfortunately 7 people who deserved a nomination that won't get one. Right. That's the nature of the competition. That's it. That's just what happens. Now, I'll tell you what, right now, the one film I haven't seen on this list is 1917. But with what everybody is saying about Mendes and his direction of it, it sounds like that is a lock that he's going to get one of those nominations. It just sounds to me, I haven't seen it myself, so I can't say it deserves it, but everything I'm hearing, he's going to get one of those nominations. Well, here's the other thing. We know that Martin Scorsese is going to get one of the spots. We just know that's just true. Bong Joon-ho for Parasite is going to get one of those spots. Yeah. That's just a foregone conclusion. Because Hollywood loves movies about Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino is going to get one of those spots. That's 4. That's 4 right there. And guess what? That means there are a ton of directors who deserve a nomination this year that just aren't going to get them. If we look down the list, as far as I'm concerned, the best movie of the year is Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit's the best film of the year. Taika Waititi did a remarkable job getting that. There's a very real possibility he ain't even going to get a nomination. Let's talk about Todd Phillips. Todd Phillips did a remarkable job with the Joker. Remarkable job with the Joker. The movie's probably going to get a Best Picture nomination, and there is a very real chance he will not get a Best Director nomination. There's only one spot left. Lulu Wang took this simple little low-budget concept in The Farewell and churned out one of the most beautiful films of the year. It's just a simple, one camera, and it's just story. And when you can direct something as compelling and emotionally touching as that, she deserves a nomination. But there's only one spot left, and there's a very real chance she's not going to get a nomination. Let's talk about a director of another one of the best films of the year. James Mangold for Ford v. Ferrari, the guy who also directed Logan. Ford v. Ferrari is brilliant, fantastic, both in terms of incredible performances, great heart-pounding action, wonderful visuals. It's a little bit of a period piece, all that kind of stuff. James Mangold is probably going to be on the outside looking in, and he's probably not going to get that spot. He deserves a nomination. He probably ain't going to get it. Rian Johnson right now has directed what is my number 3 best film of the year in Knives Out. That movie is all direction. Knives Out is all direction. And Rian Johnson crushed it with that movie. Absolutely crushed it. And by the way, Knives Out just crossed this low budget little film crossed $100 million domestically, $200 million internationally this week. He totally deserves a nomination. Probably won't get one. Probably won't get one. And then there are more. You can make an argument for, Noah Baumbach for Marriage Story.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a very good possibility he's going to get that 5th spot. And if not, then that's hailed as one of the best films of the year. He's not going to be getting a nomination. I mean, it is just the nature of the competition, Rob, but it is crazy. We have a lot of these incredible directors who turned in incredible performances this year, and a ton of them are not going to get a nomination. And I think, here's my pick, that I think is going to be the one that we all shake our head. At least I'm going to shake my head at the most. I don't think Taika's going to get that nomination.
Really?
I think he deserves it. I think he should be in that 5. But like I said, it is such a stacked category this year. I think he's going to end up on the outside looking in. I hope not. But I think he's going to end up on the outside looking in this year, and I hope the Academy proves me wrong. But Rob, when you look at this, what do you think? Who do you think are the directors that are really poised to be the snub victims this year?
Well, there's a lot of talk. We didn't mention Greta Gerwig, who
for
seems
Little
to
Women
be in the mix for Little Women, but
because she did get a nomination for Lady Bird, her last effort.
Right. And I know that Little Women has been sort of divisive amongst critics. I mean, I haven't seen it. I really liked Lady Bird a lot. I thought it was, I think.
And I walked out of it. I really didn't like it. Everybody, though, I mean, you're in good company, Rob. Everybody loved it. I couldn't stomach it. For whatever reason, didn't work for me.
I just thought, the relationship between Lady Bird and her mother was so genuine. I really felt like I was seeing a unique voice that was unique to Greta Gerwig. And I'm all about authorship. I love when I really feel like I'm in the hands of a director that's giving me something unique. I certainly felt that with Knives Out. Like you pointed out, Rian Johnson, that film is all direction. That film is beautiful. It is gorgeously shot. It is beautifully composed. And I hope, Rian Johnson, I don't know if he will get a nomination because it's a genre movie. It's a whodunit, but Taika Waititi's film, John, it was what a bold, ballsy thing to do. And I think that alone, the courageousness of him playing Hitler, as an imaginary friend. I mean, it was, who would have thought you could take one of the greatest catastrophes in all of human history and turn it into a heartwarming teaching moment. It was very, very ballsy and gutsy. And for that alone, definitely, I think, worthy of song, but probably, I think you might be right that he could get snubbed. I mean, I think you're pretty good here. Lulu Wang, I think, needs to make another movie before she'll get an Academy Award nomination. But again, like Lady Bird, The Farewell, very personal movie that really only she could have made. I mean, another filmmaker might have covered the same material, but not in the same way. And what I really like about this year's films is there have been so many unique look, James Mangold, Ford v Ferrari might get my pick as the most wildly entertaining movie of the year.
It was great.
That movie, I mean, but it's class to me. That was classical studio storytelling, which we don't see a lot from the major studios. And it wasn't a franchise movie. It was a biopic that dealt with a certain incident in time. 2 incredible central performances, but again, a movie that relied heavily on direction. I mean, that movie was all direction. It was so much fun to watch. It was so beautifully made. And I think I look, while he's probably not going to win if he gets that last spot, I think Mangold Man was certainly turned in one of the best directorial efforts of the year. And he's obviously delivered many times in the past, even our beloved Logan, but he's shown that he can work in different genres. He's a terrific director.
Yeah.
And that movie was just wildly entertaining. But like you said, there's only 5 spots. But I think Parasite. I think our man in Korea is going to take the award.
Oh, geez, I thought you were saying he's going to get snubbed out of it. I'm like, no way. He's getting nominated.
He might win. I think he might win.
I think there's a very good chance he wins. He's a sexy pick for this year too. And so there's a lot to that. All right, guys, question is, it is the eternal conundrum of the Oscars. So many deserving potential nominees, only 5 spots. Who do you think is going to be the big name director with the big turn-in performance of the year that ends up on the outside looking in by the time the award nominations get announced in a couple weeks? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our third main topic today. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Rishif Shire, who writes, I just read on Deadline that Travis Knight here we go again, Rob, has dropped out from directing the Uncharted movie due to Tom Holland's scheduling issues. Boy, oh boy, this is starting to look like the Flash movie. Starting to doubt it sees the light of day. Despite reports to the contrary, couldn't they have just given this one to Nathan Fillion? He's perfect for it. All right, thanks a lot for sending in the question, man. And first, let me just address that last part you said there. No, Nathan Fillion is completely 1,000% the wrong guy for this, because this movie is not about an almost 50-year-old Nathan Drake. That's not what the movie's about. The movie's about a young Nathan Drake. No, Nathan Fillion is totally the wrong guy. And you don't build your movie around the actor you want to put in. That's how you make shitty movies. Like, the actors are there to serve the characters, and the characters are there to serve the story. You don't go, wow, we really want this actor in the role. Okay, let's totally change our movie and make the movie serve the actor. You don't do it that way. That's how you end up with crappy movies. So, and I love Nathan Fillion. I love that little short film of his too, but no, he was obviously clearly the wrong guy for this. But you're not wrong when you mentioned this is starting to smell like the Flash a little bit, because we are now in a situation here, Rob, where, and there have been other directors that have been loosely attached at one point or another, but we've had now 3 firmly attached directors that have now departed. We, of course, had Dan Trachtenberg, most recently Sean Levy before was attached to direct, and then we had the Kubo and the Two Strings and the Bumblebee. God, what a great job Travis Knight did with Bumblebee, and obviously Kubo and the Two Strings, and now he's gone. 3 big directors, all seriously attached to the film, and now all seriously gone. And it raises the question, why? Well, what's being reported here, Rob, is that the reason they're saying the departures happened here is because you've got Tom Holland, who is obviously going to be playing Spider-Man. And now they're saying his Spider-Man shooting schedule is going to interfere with the shooting schedule of Uncharted, so they're having to bump Uncharted. And as a result of bumping Uncharted, that now means the schedule doesn't work for Travis Knight, and now Travis Knight needs to depart, and blah, 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 blah. All right. Here's my main problem with this, Rob. This is my main problem with this whole thing. Again, to me, the character is not there to serve the actor. To me, if the actor can't do it now, go get another actor. Go get another actor. But I do love Tom Holland, and they seem to think he's the perfectly right guy for this thing. And okay, I'll get into that because I love Tom Holland. I think he's great, and I look forward to seeing him play Drake. I am. I think it's going to be great. But here's the part that really confounds me. Both the new Spider-Man movie and the Uncharted movie fall under the purview of Sony. Now, granted, Marvel's going to be producing the movie, but it's still Sony's movie. How did you not know when you were setting up to have Tom Holland play this role in Uncharted? How did you not think about, oh yeah, we've got this other movie of ours that we're very bullish that Tom Holland is going to be a part of? How did they not stop to think over at Sony for 1 second? Oh, we totally forgot we've got Tom Holland in another one of our movies that is shooting at a certain time. Whoops. I mean, listen, I've been very, very big on Sony the last year or two. I think Sony in the last year or two have really pulled up their boots. I think they've done some really good things. They've put out some very good movies, and they've got some really great projects on the horizon as well. And I've been very, very big on Sony the last couple of years. But this, to me, I don't know, this just reeks of some major incompetence and somebody really dropping a ball. This was all under your roof. It's not like somebody just popped a surprise on you and oops. And it does raise the question. Maybe for the sake of the movie, then you change out your actor. I mean, is Tom Holland the only guy on the planet? And I love Tom Holland. I loved his casting. But is he the only actor in the world who can play this role? You've got a guy right now, you've got a Travis Knight, who's one of the hottest names in directing right now. How you take a dead as a doornail Transformers franchise that became a laughing point whenever anybody would even bring up the franchise anymore. He stepped in there, did a spin-off movie of one of the little Transformers, Bumblebee, and made it one of the most heartwarming, fun, wonderful films of the year that it came out. When you have a guy who does that, I'm sorry. Travis Knight is more important to this movie than Tom Holland is. I'll say it. I know that's not going to be popular, but he's Spider-Man. Everybody's going to love because he's the famous one, but I don't give a shit. Travis Knight was the more important guy to this project than Tom Holland is. And Travis Knight would have been a lot more responsible for making this movie quality than the actor playing the lead role. And there are other really, really good actors you could have stepped at. Instead, they treated the director's chair like another tradable commodity. They've got this rotating merry-go-round of directors going on now with this project. Travis Knight was more important to this project than Tom Holland was. Now, clearly the people at Sony don't see it that way. And fine, because Tom Holland is really popular. And again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm dumping on Tom Holland because I think he's aces. I love Tom Holland. But I think this was the wrong move on Sony's part. This is a project people have been waiting for a long time. It's already gone through multiple delays. You've gone through multiple directors. You finally have you've had other really good directors attached, and now you've got a really great director attached who's really hot right now doing some really special things with these types of properties. He's great for it. And they decided, nah, the star's more important than the director. And they went through yet another director. And I just got to say, Rob, as somebody who's been very big on Sony the last couple of years, I'm very disappointed in this decision of theirs. I think it was the wrong move. Anyway, you take a look at this, Rob. How do you see it?
Well, look, the Uncharted franchise, the video games, were the first time when I played that first Uncharted game, it was the first time I felt like a video game was the closest it's ever been to being a movie. I was so enamored of the characters, the voice acting, the actual story, and the way I was carried through with the cutscenes into the gameplay. It was the first video game I ever sat down and I was obsessed. I played the entire game all the way through from beginning to end. And I have a real love for the Uncharted franchise. And the games have all been really pretty solid. But I've never liked the casting of Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. I love Tom Holland. I love him as Spider-Man. But to me, Nathan Drake is a guy look, let's face it, he's an Indiana Jones analog. And Tom Holland to me seems still like a little kid. And even if you go the younger route, and I don't necessarily think Mark Wahlberg would have made a good Nathan Drake, but I agree with you. I'm like, this project is not going to live and die with Tom Holland, although I'm sure the studio is going, well, when Tom Holland stars in a Spider-Man movie, it makes $1 billion. He's become one of the most bankable draws in terms of actors in the world because he was in Endgame, because he was in Infinity War, because he was in Civil War. He was, if you look at just his box office, he is one of the most bankable draws ever. But I don't know if he could have carried Uncharted. It would have to be damn good. And already it's an Indiana Jones Tomb Raider riff as it is. So maybe the problem, that's just an excuse. They're using Tom Holland as the excuse, but maybe the excuse really is the script isn't there. The story isn't there yet. And I think the directors that have come and gone on the project look at it and go, how is this different enough from a Tomb Raider movie? And they look at the Tomb Raider movie, they think to themselves, well, Uncharted is very similar to Tomb Raider. And the last Tomb Raider movie, which was you, John, have always talked about, you've sung the praises of it. And I kind of enjoyed the last Tomb Raider movie. I caught a little bit of it just the other day. And I just don't know if the project itself is viable. I don't know.
See, I do believe the project is viable. I do. And I don't think you have to worry a lot about there being a lot of similarities between it and Tomb Raider. Because I think you're right. There are a lot of similarities, but I don't think they need to worry about that. I don't think that's going to be to its detriment too much if you just make a better film, right, despite those things. And listen, if you're going to go with the younger, Nathan, I do like Tom Holland's casting. A lot of people can question about whether they should have gone with a younger Nathan or if they should have gone with a mid-30s, early 40s Nathan, an adventurer kind of nearing the end, a thief's end kind of thing, nearing the end of his adventuring days. I don't know.
Right.
That's a different discussion. But again, I think there are two possibilities here, Rob. You raise up a really good one. That maybe the whole scheduling conflict thing is just a smokescreen. Maybe it's just there are deeper issues with that, but they've had so many years to work those issues out. And from what I understand, what brought Travis Knight in was the state in which the script was in, and in his new little addition to it. And apparently it seemed like they were in a pretty good place to make this finally happen. And then all of a sudden this happens and now he's gone. And I'm just at a little bit of a loss. Let me ask you this, Rob.
Well,
go ahead. Make your point.
Money. That now that Sony has, especially after this summer, Men in Black International not doing so well. Sony has had not exactly the greatest year aside from Spider-Man. And I think once they know that, we can be guaranteed another $1 billion, they want to be in the Spider-Man business. They've got Venom 2 in production. They've got Morbius coming out. I think they want to get that Spider-Man cheddar, and Uncharted as a film is not a sure thing. Whereas a Spider-Man 3, I hope they call it Homefront, is a slam dunk. So I think it really is a studio issue. And they probably said, if let's say the script for Uncharted is great, I still think Sony said, well, guys, we need a Spider-Man movie to make sure our shareholders and our parent company's happy with us. And we'll do Uncharted afterwards because we need that sweet, sweet Spider-Man cheddar.
Yeah, and I don't blame them for prioritizing movies like that. But I just if that's the case, change your actor. Just replace Tom Holland with another there are other great actors in the right age range that you could put in that and keep the director, Travis Knight, attached to it and give everybody the Uncharted movie that they've been looking forward to.
Yeah.
But they seem to got their priorities. Anyway, guys, the question is for you here. How do you see this? Do you think this is, no big deal? This is no big problem, so we got to wait another year for it, not a big deal? Do you kind of think it's a big deal like I do? Do you think they should have swapped the actors? Do you think, no, they made the right choice? You got to have Tom Holland playing the role. How do you guys feel about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our fourth and final main topic today. And our fourth and final main topic for 2019 gets sent in to us by Ra, who writes, A couple of weeks ago, you did a segment talking about how The Mandalorian became the most in-demand show of the year. Well, apparently that has now officially been overthrown by The Witcher. According to Business Insider, The Witcher surpassed The Mandalorian as the most in-demand streaming show in the world. Did you see this coming? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, you're right. That is what happened. Let's take a look at it. This is the report that came to us from Business Insider. They wrote the show, The Witcher, they're talking about, which arrived on Netflix on December 20th, passed Disney Plus's Star Wars series, The Mandalorian, as the top show in the world the week of December 22nd through to December 28th. The Witcher was also the top show in the US, with nearly 127 million demand expressions, compared with The Mandalorian's 115 million demand expressions in the US that week. And of course, that comes to us from the Business Insider. All right. I think there's a couple things here that we need to keep in mind, though, Rob, when talking about that. And then we'll get to the big stuff. I think the first thing you need to keep in mind is that when The Witcher dropped, it dropped 8 episodes. So there's 8 views right there per person if they decided to binge it, right? Whereas somebody who was keeping up on The Mandalorian, you know, they've got 1 episode to go that week. So there is an asterisk to be thrown in there. So you got to take that in consideration. And that's one of the things with the binging and all that kind of stuff. But that being said, Witcher is a show that has continued to surprise and impress, not just because of how good I thought the show was, because I thought the show was really damn good. It exceeded my expectations, personally. It exceeded my expectations. But it also exceeded my expectations, not just in terms of quality, it exceeded my expectations in terms of how many people actually tuned in to watch it. And I thought this is going to be kind of a niche thing. I think, you know, the game was very popular, sure, and you got Henry Cavill, who I adore. But I thought there was going to be a strong core audience for it, but not a lot more beyond that. I have consistently been shocked by just how many people have been watching The Witcher. Right. Like a lot of people. As a matter of fact, you know, Ann and I bought a new dresser for her closet. And we didn't feel like taking the 4 hours is going to take us. So we got a TaskRabbit person to come over. And Ann's up in the room, and that's where the dresser is. So this girl shows up to build the dresser for her. And she goes up to the room, and Anne's watching The Witcher. And even the TaskRabbit, oh my God, I watched the whole thing. Have you seen it all yet? And like, it's like, and I've got people writing into me talking about, like, it really did exceed my expectations. Again, I think you got to put that little asterisk on there because Witcher dropped 8 episodes all at once in that week, whereas Mandalorian had 1 new episode. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. But I still think it does speak to the wild popularity of the show that exceeded even the most probably ambitious expectations. Rob, you see these numbers, these facts, these figures. What stands out to you?
Well, what's interesting to me about The Witcher is, first of all, I think as was you just so graphically illustrated, I think The Witcher has a huge female audience. And first of all, Henry Cavill is easy on the eyes for the ladies. But, you know, the female audience over the last 20, 25 years has really been brought into the fold by fantasy television, whether it's everything from Buffy the Vampire Slayer to Outlander to this. And I think that that's something that we cannot discount. And I think that as much as Star Wars is what it is, I'll bet you that the Witcher has more of a female audience, which of course increases the viewership. But like you said, it has more episodes. They all dropped. 8 episodes dropped. But also, The Witcher was a book property. It was a very, very popular video game. Witcher 3 is, I think, considered one of the great video games of the last 5 years. And I just think that there's a huge, huge audience cross platforms. There's a lot of many different kinds of people that are interested in this kind of programming, especially in the wake of Game of Thrones leaving the air. So I think there was a lot of excitement about this show. It's handsomely produced, and people are into it. You know, there's a huge audience out there looking for adult fantasy done correctly. I mean, the Harry Potter audience, which is pretty much boys and girls, have now grown up to be women and men, and they love their fantasy. And The Witcher brings them certainly into adulthood very quickly. And I think that was something that cannot be discounted. There's just a huge audience out there waiting for this kind of programming.
Speaking of a little bit of awkwardness and the adult nature of the show, so remember I mentioned the girl from TaskRabbit Show to build the dresser. She just happened to go up to the room to start building just as Yennefer's Eyes Wide Shut scene was going on. So Anne's like, I felt kind of awkward that was on TV when this total stranger came in. But hey, there you go. So, all right, the question here is, guys, is what do you think about this report? Like, even notwithstanding the fact that it had 8 episodes drop all at once, that gave it a clear, obvious edge. But are you surprised at all by just how popular this series has been? I mean, we've all been excited about it, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't think it would be this popular amongst people. What do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down and out of the way, we're now going to go on and take your live questions. And there's 2 ways to send in your live questions. One, you can use, the best way to do it is to use the tip link in the top line of the description of this video. You can send in a question that way, or you can use the YouTube super chat feature and send a question in that way. And we are going to get to those questions in just a few minutes. As for right now, Rob and I are going to do what we do every day here. We're going to take just a quick couple of minute break here, stretch our legs, rest the vocal cords, refill our drinks, all that good stuff. Give you a chance to run and use the bathroom yourself as well. So hang tight, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. And we are back. Thank you guys for your indulgence as we took a break there. And now let's dive in. First one comes from, where's it coming to us from? Alex Cardenas, who writes, what the Iron Giant? The one, about 5, 6, or 7 movies in history have ever actually made me cry, but the one that most consistently makes me weep up every time, masterpiece, Life is Beautiful. That movie gets me every freaking time. Zyron, glorious content. Can you please recommend sports podcasts that you enjoy? Hashtag The Witcher spoiler discussion coming soon. I don't know, maybe I will have to, you know what, maybe we will have to do in a couple of days. But there we go. I think that sells it. I'm gonna so keep your eyes open for it. I'll let you know when we're gonna do that. Sports podcast right now is actually Pardon the Interruption. It's an ESPN show with Will Bond and Cornell. Great. It's entertaining. It's insightful. It's fun. I enjoyed that podcast a lot. Okay, Matt Phillips writes, hey, John, with Mark, could you see them making shorts based on Star Wars Infinites? What if the Death Star was not blown up? Could do like a Star Wars What If series?
I think it'd be rad. I mean, the Infinities comics were cool. I like that idea. And certainly if What If succeeds, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to see Star Wars follow very quickly.
All right. Next up comes to us from 613, who writes, I think Star Wars Episode 9 had too much. No, actually, I thought the action was one of the strong, even though it's a movie I didn't end up liking, I thought the action was one of the strong of it. I thought the action was actually pretty good. Much action. John McKinney writes, Cars are overrated. I don't know if Cars is overrated. A lot of people are a fan of Cars, so I'm not sure that Cars.
And Finding Nemo, come on, overrated.
Hunchback of Notre Dame, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Lion King, Aladdin, Tarzan, A Bug's Life, and movies to each their own. Rob, how would you respond to that?
You know, I would go back to you, John, and say that all movies are subjective. At least all people's opinions about movies are subjective. And I think all of those movies are great. Of all of them, I'm the least fan of Cars. But you know what? How many kids love Cars? How many die-cast Cars have they sold? I might have been a little too old when I saw Cars, but I would certainly not. My young nephew loves that franchise. I saw Cars 3 with him. He thought it was the greatest movie ever made.
I don't think you're going to find anybody out there, John, that Lion King isn't as good as Cars. I don't think you're going to find anybody out there that says Cars is not much of a comparison, but Finding Nemo's great. I mean, Finding Nemo's really, really good. Anonymous Sheev Get Laid. I mean, I'm not going to go into spoiler the movie, but dude, that has been the big question. Who looked at Sheev Palpatine? I need to ride that pony. I'm not quite sure who did that. Tara writes, Mandalorian Episode 8 hints at a group of Jedis versus Revan was the Jedi. Rebels hinted at the war, and now the Mandalorian. Is Disney prepping?
I think very much so. I think there's a lot of lore. What I really love the most about The Mandalorian is how it delved into all of this lore in kind of subtle ways. But by the end, when you see, well, I won't say what you see if you haven't seen it yet, but it's like, wow, I'm sure Jon Favreau, who had kids, was obviously heavily influenced. He probably watched all of the Clone Wars and all of Rebels when he was coming up with The Mandalorian. And he's like, you know, there's a lot of cool lore here that we need to delve into, and I think people want to see it.
All right. Now Ben Rayner writes, I think Mandalorian is uniting the fan base. Hashtag Yoda. No, it's not. Here's what I would say. The divided fan base can agree on Mandalorian. And find that. But it is when it's still the majority of Star Wars, they're still quite divided. I mean, I don't know that it's a 50-50 divide, but of stuff out there that I think while Mandalorian is something they've been able to come together over, but just that one thing, I don't know that it's healed any of the other with you at this point. Jaron Morris writes, Gio, how do you stop Khabib Nurmagomedov other than a lucky shot? He is the best grappler in right now. The moment he does this, you're And on top of that, when he fought Conor McGregor, who is a top 5 striker in MMA, he stood for that fight. He stood and striking with Conor McGregor. He was striking and admitted striking Conor McGregor. So what do? You fight him. He might knock you out. If you lay his hands on you, you're dead. He is the best pound for pound fighter. None. And the only way to beat this guy is with that lucky shot. John McKinney writes, Christian Bale should have played Wars prequel trilogy. I got the idea after watching Equilibrium. Bob, you think Christian Bale playing Anakin made much of a difference?
Dude, that would have been dope. I would. Oh man, I would have loved that. I'm an unabashed Christian Bale fan all the way back to Empire of the Sun. So, and Equilibrium, a movie that's all about gun fu. They created basically martial arts with guns. I mean, I would love that.
Any difference though? I
mean, no, I don't. You're right. I don't think it would have made any difference. The problem with the movie was not the prequel trilogy was not Hayden Christensen.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree.
It was George Lucas leaving humanity for 20 years.
Calvin Patel writes, if they made another trilogy or solo film for Star Wars, what would you like to see the story? The thing that I ask for new Star Wars movies is new direction. Don't go back to things we've already covered. In new planets and new systems, new heroes, the Star Wars universe is vast and huge. Go explore universe. That would be the main. That's the only thing I have. That's it. Just that big generalization. Go in a different direction. Stories. That's it. Other than that, I'll be totally happy. Then Calvin. Mike C writes, Giovanni, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you so much, Mike. I was thinking if properties like Harry were adapted today, almost with all the great adapted television we're experiencing, do you think they would still be adapted as films? Yes. Now, I think so. Rob.
Absolutely. 100% they would be.
Especially when you're looking at something like Harry Potter, which is very specifically broken because of the books. They're into chapters, right?
Right.
And they out of that as a film franchise, then 2 9-episode. I think that way more mileage as well. I think they absolutely would have been.
And those work so well. Both Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter work so well as films.
They would not have been. Lord of the Rings especially would not have been as good on television.
No.
It just would not have been as good as television. So yes, I absolutely believe gone the way of the movie. Jaron writes, a year ago, the releases a small clip of Last of Us 2 with a mysterious woman who looks like it's her mom. They never really clarified she's dead. And at a presentation, a voice actress was brought on stage, but a secret. It's possible. The reality is, do they need that to be her? I don't think so. And by the way, I mean, unless I'm not remembering it correctly, but the identity of her mom was never in the first game. Not that big a deal. So I don't know that if bringing in her mom into a new one that secret and whatever, I'm not really sure. So if I got to set an over-underline on that, I would 23%. 23% is where I'll set the over-underline on that. So let's see. So do you think it's over that or do you think it's under that? All right. Next up, Great Productions writes, wondering why so many witches. It beat The Mandalorian, 150 worldwide streaming views, 127 compared to 127 a week. Way to go, Henry Cavill. Again, find that in that 1 week, Witcher dropped 8 full episodes all in that week. That is a significant. It does not take away from how impressive it is. It's still super impressive. But again, Mandalorian had one, although it was the finale, whereas the Mandalorian, whereas the Witcher dropped 8 episodes. So you got to take that into consideration, Gray Shot, but super impressive, absolutely. Play that again, Bra writes, thoughts on Rotten Tomatoes. Rise of Skywalker audience scored 86%. been locked at that score from 5,000 to over 30 fluctuation. We've actually addressed that question. It's actually we've made this point before, unusual at all. Once you get over, and Brett brings up when we do question of the day on the John Campea Show, this comes up all the time. What votes? It's going to stay roughly at that range. Like we've had John the day where we've checked in on it at 100 votes and like something will be at 40%. And then when I go back and check on it at 4,800 votes, 43%. Because after you get over, you start to get basically what your picture is. And by the way, that's not another tinfoil hat conspiracy, like absolutely moronic, idiotic conspiracy theory that some people try to come up with to try to paint something in a negative light, but really it's not. There's that. All right. Next one. Writes 2 weeks to Oscar nominations. It's going to be really exciting. I mean, I look forward to it every year. Get up early. Day, I'm looking forward to it. San Philip writes, have you ever played a Resident Evil game before? I don't believe I have. I've watched my buddies. I mean, I've hung out play Resident Evil. I don't know that I've ever picked up the controller myself. Have you ever played a Resident Evil?
Yeah, early on, the back when Resident Evil was basically still in a house. You know, I mean,
back when it was still in a house.
I mean, I liked the Resident Evil series. I mean, I was a huge zombie fan. Now there's the oversaturation of the zombie genre, but back in the day when it first started, I loved the Resident Evil franchise.
I didn't think the movie was that good. I wasn't all that big on the movie.
No, but there was some, you know, I have to say, for a franchise that isn't the greatest, I like the Resident Evil movies overall they're definitely guilty pleasures.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of them. Actually, let me take that back. I really think they stink. But okay, so that right. Let's see. We're at Lazarus Paris. I like that name, writes, love The Rise of Skywalker. I think it'll is excellent. I do think JJ have done the whole trilogy, I will admit. Here's the thing, Lazarus. I don't know that trilogy. What I do think should have happened is that they should have picked out their directors, then they all should have sat down the first one. And we've said this several times, and they just should have thought, here's where our new trilogy is starting. This is where the new trilogy. Now that we've got those 2 points in time, you directors know the line you need to follow. Go. So I don't think you needed JJ doing that. You needed somebody who was on the same page with JJ, and JJ was on the same page with directing the second one. But hey, listen, I didn't like Skywalker, but there's a lot of people who do, and I think it's great. And I love it. People love movies, even if it's movies that I don't. All right. Vincent Vasquez, Sponsor writes, thoughts on Honey Boy and Peanut Butter Falcon? I finally got caught up on these, Rob. And you know, the thing about the Peanut Butter Falcon, and everybody was talking about the kid. He's wonderful. And everybody's talking, and he was wonderful. And I was late to the party in this. Dakota Johnson, who I always suspected, because I really liked her in that Bad Times El Royale. I really quite liked her. Everything looked good in the 50 Shades of Grey movie, so I don't blame her for that. You know, she didn't really show anything in there, but I always had this suspicion there was more to her than we were really being able to see. I believe she does not get enough credit for the in Peanut Butter Falcon. And I was absolutely blown away by the kid, and I can't remember the kid's name. I was absolutely blown away by Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf, also with Honey Boy, in which he was fantastic. But to me, it's Dakota Johnson's performance is really what surprised me because I wasn't expecting much. As we're getting close to the end of the year now, have you had a chance?
I haven't seen either one of them, but I think that definitely I've not only heard good things about the movie. I'm a huge fan of Dakota Johnson, even when I first remember seeing her in The Social Network almost 10 years ago.
That's right, yeah.
She plays that brief role that she sleeps with Sean Parker, and I thought she was delightful there. But you know, I want to see. I've always liked Shia LaBeouf as a screen presence, even in Lars von Trier's Nymphomaniac, and
he's a psychopath, but he's amazing.
Yeah, and both Honey Boy I really want to see because it's a Hollywood story, and I love movies about Hollywood. And the Peanut Butter Falcon looked like, I mean, did we have a Shia LaBeouf-assance this year that with these two movies? I mean,
Very
is he
quiet.
given the credit is a quiet LaBeouf-assance.
Very
but seriously, I'm glad to see him. I met him once. I met him once at La Poubelle on Franklin, and he was a little wacky, I got to tell you, but I liked him.
When I first met Shia LaBeouf, still living in Canada, and Paramount flew me down because they were doing this Transformers movie, this new Transformers, and I was super excited about it because I'm a big Transformers guy, and so they flew me down for a visit, and during the day in the Transformers movie with that big epic battle going on in the streets, and that's what they were shooting that day, and I got to be on set that day. We have all these actors poles with green balls all that's supposed to be the Transformers. The streets looking up at these things, and anyway, they pulled us off the shop on the side, and they brought in Michael Bay, Megan Fox, and Shia LaBeouf of us, and he was great. We were in there with him for about a half hour, and he was wonderful, personable. It became very disheartening when we see all of the antics going on with him. Yeah. Whatever, but make no mistake, one of the best in the world. Absolutely is. Sam, the man who can. I like that name. Writes, John, are you doing a top 10 best and worst? I have traditionally always done at the end of the year a top 10 best of the year and top 10 worst of the year. I am absolutely doing top 10 best of the year. I am not doing a top 10 this year. I know, and I've just become more and more convicted about that. And what's the point of doing a worst of the year? What's the point of that? What movies were bad? What's the point of fighting? What's the point of doing? And I made the decision that while I have done it every year, that's not what I'm about. I'm celebrating the things I like. I'll talk about the things I don't like when they come up, but I don't see the point. What's the point? A worst 10 films of the year. Now, I'm not saying that to bag on anybody else who does a top 10 worst of the year. I'm not going to blame anybody else for doing it. And hate videos get a lot of clicks. I the conclusion that there's no constructive point to doing a pointing out and saying these are failed the worst this year. What's the point other than just to be toxic and to get up into a big hate fest? There's no point. I've done it every year, and I don't blame anybody for doing it. I just think for me, it's not consistent with what I want my channel to be about. You know what I mean? So I will be doing a top 10 best of the year. I won't. That for the first year in a long time, I just decided it's not what I want my channel to be about. So I will probably not be doing that this year. Tipper, right? I like that name. Hey, do you think your channel will be affected by the new COPA law at the first of the year? New film review? Well, Rob, listen, I was really worried about this when it first got announced. As a matter of fact, I immediately scheduled meetings with lawyers. I got online and talked to a lot of predominant YouTube channel people. There was a lot of fear going around over this. I'm going to go into the whole COPA thing. You can go look it up yourselves to find out. I even considered pulling my show off of YouTube. I really did. I considered pulling my show off of YouTube. Considered making it like Patreon only. And I seriously thought about doing this, Rob. I thought about taking one or two clips from my show continue to put those little clips up on YouTube, but actually doing my full show only for Patreon. So safe. But the more that things kind of became revealed, the safer I felt. After I talked to people who were more closely involved and knew a lot more about the COPA thing than I do, my content is actually pretty safe. And so I don't really need to worry about it. So listen, if I have another legal expert come up to me and tell me actually that make it so you should be worried, I might show off of YouTube and make it a Patreon only show. For now, I think we're in a pretty good place. So I don't know. Have you heard any more big developments that
no,
I've not?
I mean, look, I'm actually a fan of the COPPA, the law. I mean, it's
principle.
protected.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah, and I think, look, while traditionally you and I've loved movies since I was a kid. There's a lot of channels like action figure collecting channels that I like. Like there's this one guy who he's out of Australia who always reviews hot toy figures. I can see that channels like that might have a problem because the lawmakers don't understand the difference between, say, a Hot Toys action figure and a Star Wars black figure, and the age difference and the monetary necessities required. So it's going to be a little bit of a shakeout, I think, but ultimately it's going to be okay because, the channels that they're really going after with this are not the channels that we all know what we're doing. And we're not going after children, and we're not trying to do anything unsavory or untoward. And I think that's what they're doing. That's what they're trying to go after. And I think there was a big panic, but people will understand, okay, it's pretty much understood. I think that interesting thing, John, is as an aging man-child myself, my interests in all this stuff haven't really changed since I was 5 years old. So the thing in our space that people are worried about is that, well, heck, man, I like Star Wars when I was 10. And I still like Star Wars as a middle-aged man with one foot in his grave. So if I talk about Star Wars, am I going to run afoul of COPPA? I don't think so. I think people understand.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Tron. It's The Last Jedi grossed $96 million through Thursday, $52 million Friday through. To match this, The Rise of Skywalker 15% money through Thursday and 27% Friday through Sunday, and around 50 to 60. Rise of Skywalker 70 to 80 million behind The Last Jedi next Sunday. That's a big gap to close. The problem with your thinking there, Tron, is that big of a drop from Monday to Thursday. It's once you get to the weekends and the new movies that are opening. The thing with The Rise of Skywalker is it's already about what's opening against it with the Christmas releases. They have a lighter competition schedule coming up in their next weekend. So I actually think it's going to be closer than you think. We don't know for sure, but we'll have to keep our eyes on it. Good. I love it when people bring up math and facts discussion. So good. All right, Jason S. Wright. There are lots of discussions on how much movie at the box office, whether they make a profit, but I don't see much discussion on the additional profits they make from the movie's merchandise and digital rentals, etc. The main point for that is that, Jason, because the movie studios make less money on that than one of the reasons, Rob, that we see, and you and I have talked about this before. One of the reasons that we're seeing this new subscription model is specifically because there has never been as much money. I mean, back in the 80s and whatever, early 90s, the DVD, that was very lucrative for a while. But in the last 10 years, it has not been nearly as significant as people think. This new of subscription models is because studios realize we can actually make with a larger than trying to rely on individual movie rentals and purchases and things like that. And that's why we're going to be thing. As far as merchandising goes, unless you're Star Wars or MCU, I mean, there's not a coming out. Just saying, not a lot of Honey Boy action coming out.
Special abuse action.
So I don't know, Rob, how would you address?
Well, no, I thought you did a great job. I mean, look, the physical media, basically the DVD was the most successful consumer electronics product probably in history, maybe since the TV. So there was a lot of money. Hollywood was making money hand over fist with people buying DVDs. But with streaming, physical media, the sales and the amount of money, I mean, they're still making $3 or $4 billion a year, but it used to be closer to 20 billion. All of that is contracted. and streaming has skyrocketed because the thing about streaming is it's much more consistent as far as Hollywood is concerned. Whatever chunk they're getting from these streaming services, it's every month. Every month, every person, somebody might not have been into physical media, but everybody had TVs in their homes. And streaming has just become something that is here to stay. It's a whole different economic model, and it's far more consistent, I think, than physical media ever was. And it's got a lot more people that aren't so interested in necessarily movies are still getting a subscription service to Netflix because of all the documentaries, all the different kinds of programming around the world. It's a different world that we're living in. So,
all right. On to the next one. And the next one comes to us from Right. One huge, it looked good on paper movie no one remembers Congo, a Michael Crichton adaptation with the writer of Moon, directed by Amblin co-founder and Kathleen Kennedy's husband, and music by Jerry Goldsmith. I'll be honest with you, Rob, I like Congo that much. What were your thoughts on Congo? Did you like it?
Dude, I hated Congo. I was so disappointed. I don't think anything in that movie works. Well, John, first, I just want to say thank you once again. It's been a great year here at the John Campea Show. I love doing the show. I want to thank you for all the opportunities you've afforded me, the 100 million views party, and meeting all the fans. And it's just been a terrific year. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to be a part of your terrific show. And you've taught me so much about YouTube and broadcasting and how to do it upright. I'm still fledgling and I'm learning, but thank you very much for all of the opportunity.
Well, it's been great. It's been great having you. Listen, again, we cut today's show a little bit short because we're experiencing some audio problems that have cropped up. So didn't hear me a little bit earlier. I'll repeat it again. I'm going to take all the remaining questions and we're going to do a follow-up video, and we're going to get all your questions in a companion video put up in the next couple of hours. Keep your guys' eyes open for that, and we'll have the hopefully we'll have the audio issues fixed by then. Have a safe and happy New Year. That will do it for us for now. My name is Campea, and until next time, guys.